A stormy night, a wounded dog left to die, and a 7-year-old boy who refused to walk away. Tommy Carter, a 7-year-old boy, lived with his mother, Maggie, in a small house on the edge of a dense forest. His father, a firefighter, had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving a void in his life. Maggie worked at a local diner, always, doing her best to raise Tommy with love and security. Despite his loneliness, Tommy loved exploring the woods near his home. He would spend hours among the trees, pretending to be a fearless explorer or a treasure-seeking hero. But on that rainy afternoon, something different happened, something that would change his life forever. The storm was approaching, and Maggie called Tommy inside. "I don't want you in the forest with this rain coming, young man," she warned. But the moment Tommy turned toward home, he heard a sound that made his heart freeze. A muffled howl of pain coming from the woods, a drawn-out cry, sounding almost human in its sadness. Tommy froze. What was that? He looked at the house hesitantly. He knew his mother would be angry if she found out he ventured into the forest, but he couldn't ignore that sound. With his heart racing, Tommy grabbed his flashlight and followed. The sound. The forest was damp, the leaves slippery underfoot. The rain began to fall in thick drops, but he continued. The crying became stronger, more desperate. Then he saw him, in the middle of a small field. Trapped between fallen branches and covered in mud was a huge Rottweiler, injured and shaking. Its black fur was stained with dried blood, and a broken chain dangled from its neck. The dog panted, eyes wide with fear and pain. Tommy felt a lump in his throat. Who would do something like that to a dog? He took a hesitant step. The dog raised its head with difficulty and let out a low growl. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you," Tommy whispered, trying to sound braver than he felt. The dog just watched, eyes shining in the dim light. It was as if he was asking for help, but was too scared to trust. The boy looked around. If Rex was running away from something, that meant that something could still be around. The wind blew through the trees, bringing a strange metallic smell. Tommy swallowed. He needed to get the dog out of there before it was too late. But what he didn't know was that he was already being watched. Tommy realized that Rex was seriously injured. There were deep cuts on his body and a broken chain around his neck, as if he had been freed from something terrible. The dog was shaking, breathing hard, but his eyes never left Tommy's. The boy slowly lowered himself, trying to show that he was not a threat. His heart was beating fast, but he knew he couldn't leave Rex there. He needed to get him to safety before the rain got worse and his wounds became infected. But just as Tommy was getting ready to help him, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Steps. They came from the middle of the forest, heavy and slow, as if someone was looking for something. Tommy quickly ducked behind a fallen log, holding his breath. Rex lifted his head, his ears straining for the sound, but he didn't growl. He seemed to understand that he needed to be quiet. Between the trees, Tommy saw a silhouette. A tall man, wearing a thick coat and muddy boots, held something shiny in his hand. A knife. The stranger looked around, mumbling something inaudible. Tommy felt a shiver run down his spine. That man was looking for Rex. Rex tried to get up but groaned in pain and fell to his side. Tommy squeezed his eyes shut, desperate. If the man got closer, he would see the dog, and worse, he might find it too. The man took a few more steps and stopped. He was silent for a moment, as if listening. Tommy didn't dare move. The sound of rain hitting the leaves was the only noise between them. Then, as if satisfied, the man swore under his breath and headed in the opposite direction, disappearing into the darkness of the forest. Tommy let out a breath he hadn't even realized he was holding. The immediate danger had passed, but he knew it was not over. That man would come back. He looked at Rex, who was watching him with eyes full of fear and pain. There was no more time to waste. I needed to get the dog out of there before it was too late. With effort, Tommy put his arms around the large Rottweiler and tried to lift him. Rex was heavy, and the boy felt his muscles ache with the effort, but he wouldn't give up. Staggering under the dog's weight, Tommy began to drag him through the forest, back to the house. But little did he know that the man I had already seen his footprints in the mud, and he was coming back. Tommy struggled to carry Rex, feeling his legs shaking under the injured dog's weight. With each step, the Rottweiler let out a low groan, but he couldn't resist. He seemed to understand that this boy was his only chance of survival. The rain was thickening, making the path slippery. Tommy knew he needed to hurry, but something was bothering him, the feeling of being followed. He looked back. Nothing but the shadows of the forest and the heavy drops falling from the trees. But something was wrong. The silence was strange, too much. That's when the sound of a branch breaking echoed in the darkness. Tommy froze. Rex lifted, his head with effort, his body tense. The man was there. Before Tommy could react, a cold voice cut through the air. "Hey, kid, what have you got there?" The man emerged from the shadows, knife glinting in the rain. His gaze was hard, calculating. He watched Rex with a crooked smile. "That dog isn't yours. Give it back." Tommy instinctively backed away, protecting Rex with his own body. His heart hammered in his chest. He's hurt. He needs help. The man laughed softly as if he was amused by the boy's bravery. "That's not your problem. Now give me the dog before I get mad." Tommy felt his panic rising. He couldn't just hand over Rex, but how could I face an armed adult? Rex, despite being injured, tried to get up, growling weakly. The man frowned impatiently. "Last chance, kid." Tommy knew he had no choice. I needed to act. Now. His gaze strayed to a thick branch lying on the ground. With a quick movement, he grabbed the piece of wood and threw it hard at the man. The blow caught the attacker by surprise. He stumbled back, cursing, and Tommy seized the moment. He held Rex with all the strength he had and ran. The man's stomping feet came close behind. He was chasing them. The boy ran like never before, dodging trunks and low branches. He felt the air burning in his lungs, the sound of the man's heavy breathing approaching. The house was close. He could see the porch light shining through the trees. But then he felt a hand grab his shoulder. He was pulled back hard, falling to the muddy ground. Rex fell next to him, letting out a weak bark. Tommy tried to get up, but the man stood over him, holding the knife. "He finished." The boy closed his eyes, expecting the worst. Then a thunderous sound tore through the air. A scream, a moving shadow, and the man was thrown to the ground with a brutal impact. Tommy's eyes widened. Rex had lunged at him. Despite being injured, the dog bit the attacker's arm, preventing him from attacking Tommy. The man screamed in pain, trying to free himself from the Rottweiler. Tommy knew this was his only chance. I needed to run home. I needed to seek help. He stood up shakily and took off through the forest, leaving Rex fighting his attacker. There were only a few meters left to get to the house. But then a shot echoed through the night. Tommy stopped abruptly, his heart racing. The silence that followed was deafening. Was Rex alive? The shot echoed through the trees, and Tommy felt his legs lock. A chill ran down his spine as he slowly turned around. The forest seemed darker. The rain beat against the leaves, muffling the sounds, but he could see something on the ground. Rex was down. The man stood up slowly, holding his arm where the dog had bitten him. His breathing was labored, and the gun shook in his hand. Tommy wanted to run to Rex, but fear was paralyzing him. His eyes burned with tears. "No, no!" Rex moved his paw, groaning in pain, but he was still alive. The boy felt despair rising within him. I needed to do something, now. A bang came from the house. The front door opened violently. Maggie appeared, holding Tommy's father's shotgun. "Get away from my son." Her voice cut through the air like a blade. The man turned around, surprised. He hesitated for a second, analyzing the situation. Then, with a furious look, he took a step back, putting the gun away in his coat. "It doesn't end here." Before Maggie could fire, the man turned and ran into the forest, disappearing into the shadows. Tommy wasted no time. He ran over to Rex and fell to his knees beside the dog. The Rottweiler was breathing, but his chest was rising and falling with difficulty. Maggie knelt beside them, her expression worried. "He needs a vet, quick." Tommy held Rex's head, feeling the warmth of the dog's breath against his skin. He had to survive. The mother took the car keys, and together they took Rex to the truck. Tommy sat in the back seat, holding the dog, feeling every bump in the road as Maggie drove as fast as she could down the wet trail. Rex's eyes opened and closed slowly. Tommy held his paw tightly, as if he was trying to transmit all his energy to him. "Stay with me, Rex, please." The veterinary hospital was far away, and time was running against them. Tommy knew this was the biggest battle Rex had ever faced, and he couldn't lose. The truck skidded on the wet road, throwing mud sideways as Maggie sped off into the darkness. Tommy barely blinked, keeping his hands steady on Rex's bloody fur, who panted weakly, his eyes slowly closing. "Hold on tight, kid. We're getting there," Maggie shouted, her face pale with worry. Tommy felt his heart pounding in his chest. Every second felt like an eternity. He had never felt so scared before. What if they didn't arrive in time? The lights of the veterinary hospital finally appeared in the distance. Maggie braked sharply at the entrance and ran to open the door. "We need help. He's been shot." The vets rushed outside, carefully picking up Rex and carrying him inside. Tommy tried to follow them, but one of the assistants held him back. "Wait here, honey. Let's do our best." Tommy stood there, his clothes soaked in mud and tears streaming down his face. He looked at his mother, who hugged him tightly, but he couldn't say anything. Time passed strangely. Minutes felt like hours. With each tick of the clock on the reception wall, uncertainty grew. Then, the door to the treatment room opened. A veterinarian in a bloody coat came out, looking serious. "We managed to remove the bullet, but he lost a lot of blood. The next few hours will be decisive." Tommy felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He nodded slowly, not trusting his own voice. "Can I have it?" he asked, voice shaking. The vet smiled tiredly. "Yes, he'll want a friend nearby." Tommy entered the room and saw Rex lying on the table, breathing slowly. The dog's eyes opened slightly when he felt the boy's presence. The boy walked up to him and touched his head gently. "You're going to be okay, Rex, I promise." But deep down, Tommy knew he could only wait and hope that Rex was strong enough to survive. The hours that followed were the longest of Tommy's life. He refused to leave Rex's side, even when doctors said the dog needed rest. He sat next to the table, holding his paw affectionately, and remained there motionless until the sun began to rise outside. Rex remained quiet for a long time, breathing hard, but still alive. With each small movement, Tommy was filled with hope. With each low moan, the fear returned. Maggie waited outside, talking to the police, who had finally arrived to investigate the attack. She reported everything: the man in the woods, the shooting, the attempted kidnapping of Rex. The name of the criminal was still unknown, but authorities promised to act. Mid-morning, the vet returned to the room. He examined Rex carefully and made a small smile. "He's fighting. His blood pressure has stabilized and his fever has started to go down. He's strong." Tommy almost collapsed. "Is he going to be okay?" "With rest, yes. He'll need care, but yes, he'll survive." The boy got up and hugged Rex with tears in his eyes. For the first time since his father died, Tommy felt like someone really needed him, not because he was an adult telling him what to do, but because he, alone, had made a difference. Police later found footprints and tire marks at the scene of the attack. The man had fled, but left traces. A metal necklace was found on the ground near where Rex was rescued, with numerical inscriptions and the symbol of an underground fighting organization. Investigations pointed to a criminal group operating nearby, and Rex, like many other dogs, was a survivor. Meanwhile, the vet released Rex to rest at home under observation. Tommy and his mother prepared a space in the living room with blankets, pillows, and water. When they arrived, Maggie looked at her son. "Are you sure you can take care of him?" Tommy nodded with a confidence he hadn't had before. "He saved me. Now it's my turn." Rex lay down slowly, his body still sore, but his eyes followed Tommy. Wherever he went, the connection between the two was clear. That night, while Maggie closed the house and lit a candle in memory of Tommy's father, the boy slept next to Rex, with his hand on the dog's chest. For the first time in a long time, he felt complete. Months have passed since the night Tommy found Rex in the woods. Winter gave way to spring, and with it came flowers, clear skies, and a new beginning for everyone. Rex made a full recovery. His scars were still visible, marks of a cruel past, but now he ran around the yard as if he had been born there. The eyes that were once haunted by fear now shone with gratitude and affection. Tommy and Rex became inseparable. They went everywhere together, on forest trails, in the backyard, even on trips to the market with Maggie. The townspeople learned to recognize the duo, the boy with the shy smile and the huge Rottweiler with the calm, protective steps. The story spread throughout the community. The local newspaper published an article, "Boy Saves Dog from Fighting and Prevents Tragedy in the Forest." Many were moved, and some even volunteered to adopt the other rescued dogs, when days later the police dismantled the clandestine kennel. The man chasing Rex was finally captured, thanks to clues collected at the scene and a necklace that carried his DNA. He and other accomplices were arrested, accused of animal cruelty and involvement in illegal gambling. But the most important thing for Tommy was not justice done, nor temporary fame. It was something quieter, the confidence that was born within him. For the first time, he felt like he had a purpose. One quiet morning, sitting next to Rex on the porch step, Tommy stroked the dog's head and spoke with a serene smile. "You arrived hurt, but it was you who healed me." Rex let out a soft bark, nuzzling his leg as if to say, "I know." Deep down, that story wasn't just about rescue. It was about connection, loyalty, unconditional love, and about how sometimes heroes don't wear capes. They wear paws,